Finnish time or 6 o'clock European time. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on Ask Us Anything about Embedded. During the session, if you have any questions, please submit them via the Q&A button at the top of the interface. So please don't use the chat box, the Q&A button. These questions will be answered in an organized fashion. This webinar will be recorded and you will receive a copy of it delivered to your email account. Hope you enjoy. We'll go straight into the questions, and I'll now hand it over to our expert Santtu Ahonen, who's the product manager, Kimmo Ollila, senior software engineer, and Lars Koenig, business program manager. Over to you.
So Kimmo, you go first, but I think we can quickly introduce ourselves now.
Okay, so I can start. So I'm Kimmo Ollila, senior software engineer on Qt for device creation team.
And my name is Lars Koenig. I'm a program manager for automation. So everything towards industrial and infrastructure topics, that's mine today.
Hi there, I'm Santtu. Yeah. I'm the product manager for our device creation product. And I'm based here in Espoo, Finland. And Kimmo is 800 kilometers north in Oulu. And Lars is 2,000 kilometers south in Germany, in Ulm. So we are carefully spread here, and let's go first with the first question. So Salla, do you want to read out the questions, or Kimmo, do you want to read out?
I can start. Okay, so we have first questions. For our current project, we are sticking with Q widgets because QML and Qt Quick aren't available for frame buffer only devices on open source license. Do you have any statistics, charts, or info about the performances between compiled QML versus widgets on frame buffer devices? Unfortunately, I couldn't find any comparison data between compiled QML on frame buffer compared to Q widgets. This, of course, depends on the hardware that you are using and the application, what kind of application you are running there. So because you are using widgets, I would assume that you have pretty static user interface there. So I think the creation time of QML elements is something that might be bottleneck here. I actually found a blog post. I think I can share the screen if it's.
There is actually a blog post on it, so we don't need to share that and go deeper, but there is a blog post on that, which is fairly good statistics, right?
Not really. So this is frame buffer devices on QML, but if you look at the compiled QML, are you able to see this now?
Yes.
Here's the Qt Quick application startup times without the Quick compiler and with it. So this is a comparison between 5.6 and 5.9. But if you look at the compiled QML, you can see the drastic improvement in startup times.
I think the next one is also for you, Kimmo.
Yeah. Just a second, I stop sharing. So what are the other benefits? And this is the continuing question to the first one. So this is more like the differences between QML and Q widgets, when you should use widgets, when you should use QML. So the QML, it offers a more dynamic way or declarative way to define your user interface. So if you want to have a smooth animations and scalable, especially for touchscreen UIs, you should go with the QML. But on the other hand, if you have more, I would say, traditional desktop-centric user interface, then widgets might be still a viable solution for you. But for embedded, I would say the QML and Qt Quick is a way to go.
I think there is one more for you about the boot Qt power consumption optimization. So.
Yeah, there is yet another question. Let me just quickly check. So we already know that boot-to-Qt can make Linux and our application boot faster, but one of our stronger requirements is reducing the power consumption on our IMX6 ULL board. So is there a focus on this aspect with boot-to-Qt as well? So in boot-to-Qt, we offer a reference device images, and we haven't really addressed the power consumption there. So the idea of the boot-to-Qt is get you started the development easily and fast. But when you are actually going to finalize your product for production, you should use your own distro. So you get the build scripts so you can further customize the image and the SDK for your own needs. So power consumption is something that you can optimize yourself, or of course you can ask us and or professional services to do that for you.
There's another aspect of the power consumption in startup time. So sometimes you can even shut down your device if the startup time is so fast that you more or less don't recognize that. So by that you will immediately reduce power consumption then, right? So if you run something with battery and the startup time is just 1 second, that's just fairly simple to do so then.
Yeah. So adding to what Lars and Kimmo was saying on the boot-to-Qt, the boot-to-Qt is a reference development environment which enables pretty much everything. So the performance of that is suboptimal, and when you are doing your actual product, what you want to do is then narrow that down and make it really good.
Yeah, exactly.
I can make the next question. There's a question about with the low volume of devices sold around 200 to 300 units a year. The licensing cost per device is far from negligible. Is there a special prices charge for cases like that? We don't have a special pricing chart. We do have updated our pricing that we do pricing now from 1 unit upwards. So I think you may be referring to the pricing what we had last year. So maybe worth calling our sales on that particular topic. Also, what makes sense is that if you pile up, let's say for a 3 year of distribution, you get much higher volumes, which already gives you much lower per device price. And if that is totally not good, then of course we'd like to hear about it. What is the business case and why the price is not good, so we can have a look at it and maybe learn ourselves. Then the next question, I think that's also for me, about the support provided. Is it only for troubleshooting, or is it as well for design advices and general help when we struggle with the specific problems? So the support intention, the one that comes with the developer licenses, is really intended for fixing bugs on Qt itself. Having said that, we do help customers occasionally fixing bugs in their software or do some small help in there, but that is very limited. And for that purpose, we have professional services that can then take you all the way from designing your architecture to giving you a turnkey solution of what you need. But we do help on support or also on areas and outside of the Qt itself, but that's not what it's intended for. And there's a limitation on that, how far you can try to misuse that. I hope I answered that question. Then the next one. The next question is, what is the minimal hardware stack to begin the journey with an embedded Qt? So Kimmo, do you want to talk about the Warp 7 and go with that? So
yeah, so POSIX layer is something that we need in order to run Qt. So if you're able to run embedded Linux on your target, then Qt can be run there as well. Santtu, do you want to say something
I
about that?
think, the typical IMX7 is a typical low-end device with 60 megabytes of RAM and no hardware acceleration, and you can run pretty decent good applications in there. You can obviously forget about full 3D rotating designs and animations, so that kind of stuff, but you do get a really solid, good performance if you are very careful with the application design. We are also doing some prototyping on even lower end hardware, so we are doing some prototyping in our end on the MCUs, but that's going to be another story. Keep a close eye on our blogs about that topic.
Okay, next one is from Daniel. Does Qt need graphics acceleration to work properly? Can it run animation smoothly on single core devices like ARM A5 or similar? You can run Qt without graphic acceleration. Of course, if you use the traditional widgets, or if you're using QML with the Qt Quick 2D renderer, you can define working properly. You can make it work, but if you're using QML and you don't have the GPU, you will not be able to see elements that require OpenGL. For example, shaders, graphical effects, and particle effects are not visible in your application then. Is it smooth? Well, most likely not. You are not going to get 60 frames per second without GPU on single core device. But you still can do some animating, but it's going to be a pretty static
but you
application.
You do get, if you give up the animations, you do get a very good, nice UIs.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Okay, I think that next one might be for me. So at least I'll read it out loud, and then we decide, who takes that. So the next question is, what would the recommended course of action be to deal with the situation where you want to release your product using the LTS, the long-term support version of the Qt, which latest is the 5.9, but a later version includes technology you want to include, in this case, for example, the MQTT in Qt 5.10.
Santtu, there's something to know about MQTT and 5.9. So we have the dependencies of MQTT towards 5.9. There are not many, so there's a way to include libraries even to 5.9 if that is required. So this is a way the customer can go for. However, the MQTT is part of the Qt for Automation offering, so that's a additional offering. It's a commercial add-on, so this you should be aware of, that MQTT is not part of 5.9 or 5.10 as such. It's an add-on.
Okay, I think the next one is also for you, Lars. I can read it out loud. So when is MQTT likely to be included in an LTS version?
Yeah, so the next LTS version will be 5.12, and that will MQTT include. There's even more to come on MQTT there, so we are thinking of MQTT 5, for instance, to be supported in that version.
I can read the next question out loud. Also, it's common to see on YouTube people with dev boards competing on how to start a Qt app as fast as possible. To run a Qt app, do you need to start a desktop environment? How to make it boot as fast as possible to the graphic application?
Kimmo, you can take it.
Yes. To run a Qt application, you don't need to have a desktop environment. Risto Avila has actually made a very good series of blog posts that describes how to make a fast booting instrument cluster. So I think I can share the link for the first part of this blog post to you all.
Put it on the chat box.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I hope everyone can see it. So this is the first series, first part for series of blog posts that Risto tells about how to make Qt application boot as fast as possible. So it's a cluster application that is running on IMX6 board, and it starts up in about 1.5 seconds. Pretty
yeah,
fast.
I think the sort of a spoiler on that is that the key is really on tuning the embedded Linux, not so much on Qt. So you, if the 15 seconds initial booting time, you can shave 12, 13 seconds out by tuning the embedded Linux. And then you can tune the remaining half a second or 1 second by tuning your application in Qt. That's a spoiler, sorry. Now you still better read it. Sala, do you want to read us the next one also?
Yeah, sure. So for assessment of Qt software as OTS, off-the-shelf software, we have got through the public Qt bug list for a specific version to check if applications are affected by this bug. I guess it means, do we have to go through? Okay, there's a continuation to that question, sorry. We struggle with the database as the information in the field fixed in version is not properly maintained if the Qt company switches to a new version. Are there plans to improve this?
Kimmo, do you know how it works? I think, basically, when we are fixing a bug and it goes into an earlier release, the way we are building the images of the upcoming further releases, usually the fix rolls out into the all upcoming later releases. There are caveats on this, on the already existing older releases, that fix may not go. So let me give you an example. We have, if we did a fix for 5.8 in this, which we wouldn't do today anymore, but if we did a fix for 5.8 and that goes into the 5.8.3, then after that comes 5.9.6. That fix would roll out through our build system into that release, but it would not roll out to the 5.10.3 automatically, because that's not an LTS release. And then when we do 5.11.0, that fix would again automatically roll in there. I think this is the rule, and I probably said it very confusing way, but Kimmo, am I right on that?
Yeah, I think your explanation was correct.
So there is this kind of automatic build mechanism that has these rules where and how the fixes flow into the next releases of the Qt releases that we're doing. And just sort of a word to explain everybody, we are doing the minor Qt releases, the 5.9, 5.10, 5.11. So those we are releasing every 6 months, and we are in this time box releasing mechanisms, which also means that feature-wise, features are the ones that are moving, and we do releases in a time box manner for these major releases. And then for the maintenance releases, so the patch versions 5.9.1, 5.9.2, 5.9.3, and so on, those we are releasing based on demand. When we know that now there is enough of reason to release this, maybe there is enough fixes, or there are enough of customers who actually need that fix, then we'll roll that out. And then we have these long-term support releases that are supported 3 years, and the normal releases that are there for 12 months at a time. So I hope answering the question. If you need more on that, please elaborate on the Q&A and we'll get back to that.
Just a reminder for those who have joined recently, please submit your questions through the Q&A button at the top of the interface. So if you hover at the top, you can then submit your questions to all of us. The next question is, I have Qt license embedded Linux version using Yocto. Can I build commercial, or can I build commercial Qt using Yocto?
Yes, you can. But there is a problem with that. It actually is quite difficult to create a commercial build out of Yocto, and you need to know what you're doing, and we are improving that in the upcoming release. And Kimmo, do you want to go deeper in this topic?
No, actually. I don't have the latest information. I don't know about the licensing on that part.
I don't know because I'm doing it. So yes, you can, but it's not obvious how to do it. So you please contact support and they'll give you guidance how to do it. We are making that much better now in the next release. So we are fixing some issues there. Should be much easier.
Yeah, actually reaching out to us is probably recommended. Please refer to Santu then in this case.
Great. And we got a question here. Is there a recommended method for debugging an application on target architecture other than GDB server?
The GDB, yeah, the GDB server is the recommended way to debug on target. Of course, it depends on some platforms. You don't have GDB. You have to use some specific tools. For example, in Integrity real-time operating system, you are using Greenhill's multi-debugger instead of GDB.
But GDB is the way to go on embedded Linux.
Yeah.
Hey, and for attendees, we are running out of questions, so please enter questions if you have any.
Yes, now would be a great time. We've still got some time to answer some of your questions. We're now going to kind of more frequently ask questions that we've had in the past. Over to you, Santu, while we wait for some questions to come in.
Yeah, I did prepare some few thoughts in case we run out of questions. So if you have any questions on the BSP image creation or toolchain, we already did cover some of those questions earlier. Or memory of performance management, we did cover some topics around that area also. If you want to know something about the developer designer workflow, we are doing some improvements in that area. That's actually one of the biggest areas what we are investing into. And we should have some good news coming out in the upcoming month or two on that topic. Details about separating the UI and application logic. This is also an area where we often see issues with developers when we are getting support or services calls. So it may be sometimes customers are writing too much on the UI layer and too little on the C++ on the underlying layer, and then they are having performance issues, which is quite expectable on that situation. And then if you have any questions on the schedule or cost commitments from your side, or if you have any specific Qt feature questions. So it's just a few for thoughts, and I think we have some questions coming up.
Yes. Is there a recommended secure way to read private keys through the Qt application?
Kimmo, that's going to be your.
Yeah, so I don't know any recommended secure way to do private keys reading within the application. So that's something that I have to say I don't know the answer.
That's actually a very good question. I would probably put it through support, and then support may already have an answer to that. Or if they don't have an answer to that, then you can actually have our consultant to answer that particular question. But that's a very good question. I don't know the answer off the bat. You know, I would need to go to the right guys on that topic. Or Lars, if you have anything on that one.
If not, we can always, we'll make a note of that question. We got your details from the back end, so we can get back to you on that one. Whoever asked the question.
I knew we were asking for trouble when we were asking for more questions.
So yeah, we'll get back to you, Roman, on that one. Is there information and/or recommendations, best practices on proper ways to secure your device before shipping?
Well, that depends what you want to do. I think typically people do obfuscation on the C++ code, and then they do device adherence, so they lock down the device and so on. So those are the kind of stuff you typically do before shipping. And we do have guys who have been working years on different layers of making very popular, very well-known mobile handsets. So they know quite a lot about the securing the devices on this area. But that's, again, I think, not a specialty of none of the three of us. So again, getting in touch through support.
You can do, well, if you do static linking, and then you can manually strip out the symbols before you distribute your binaries and stuff like that can be done.
Yeah, obviously, yes. I was thinking much deeper into doing the secure layer and so on. So really securing the devices. So that's where the consultancy would come handy. We did have quite a nice blog post series on the securing your devices. So Kimmo, if you can find the link, I think Tuukka put that blog post out just a month ago or 2 months ago.
Let me see if I find it.
It's not directly what you asked, but it's close.
There is a blog post protecting acute application or a device against hacking, part 1. So this seems to be it. So I can put that also to the chat box right here.
And just a reminder again, if you've got any more questions that you're dying to know the answer to, now's your time. So do use the button at the top of the interface to ask your questions.
Kim, I think there is a question for you in the chat box on the application debugging and log using. So can you answer that one?
Can you, Chang, please elaborate that a little bit? What you mean?
Does that refer to OTA updates, or is that just for the manual way doing that?
Perhaps while we wait, we've got some further questions through. After deploying devices into the field, is there a recommended or preferred way to deploy firmware updates?
Santtu, do you know about OTA?
Yeah, we do have an OTA solution that we support, but often what you want to do is do the OTA updates for the BSP and the firmware and the underlying operating system and God knows what. And that's where we do have services on our professional services side, consultancy, who can help in that. So we haven't really productized that end-to-end because we have a so wide range of different kind of customer solutions. So we've been going into those case by case.
There's certainly also in the Linux world many providers that are out there which
obviously
service, right? So even a few of them are partners of us.
Okay, we've got one more. If GDB does not offer support for our current target architecture, is there a particular method you recommend?
And GDB in this means?
GDB debugger.
Ah, yeah. Well, you can compile Qt on that, so why can't you compile the debugging bridge on that, Kimmo? Would you know?
No, I think this is specific to the target architecture. So this depends on what the target is and what's supported there. So unfortunately, I don't have answer for that.
We would need to know the target architecture, so that would probably help us on that. So you can do the remote debugging over the network, and you can do it over the serial interface. So I would assume that typically you often have one of these interfaces available on the hardware. if not, then we have to be very innovative.
Hope that answers your question, Sam. Do give us a message if you'd like to continue on that or elaborate further. Got one more. What is the best way of loading screens on embedded systems to lower the waiting time? Example, show a QML on top of the current one when the user tap on a button.
That's going to go to you, Kimmo.
Yeah, so for this depends. So basically, best way to load a different screens or whatever UI components is do it dynamically. So basically, when you are moving to that screen, you then load the QML screen, and when you navigate out of there, you then unload it. So do dynamic loading and unloading on the screens. So it's a bit hard to answer that question without knowing the actual context, what kind of application or screen transition are you doing there.
Got one more question. I don't know if you guys want to read.
Yeah, I think before I go into that, I think that's also like a good example where the professional services can really help you, and they can help you in shortcutting the time to market and finding the right way of doing that for your particular use case. So Salla, go on.
Is there a recommended way to set up cross-compiling for continuous integration and deployment?
Kimmo, do you know how the CI framework works?
No, not really. CI is not in my field. So it depends on the continuous integration system that you are using.
I know that, and I sound like a parrot now, but the professional services has been helping up in several customer projects on setting up the CI environment for the customer. So we do have expertise on these, but we don't have the right guys on this call. So to answer that, maybe getting in touch through support will help.
Then there is a question from Abir. Sorry for the dumb questions. No, there is no dumb questions, so don't worry. For a GUI application on Raspberry Pi, do you recommend using QML or just using C++ or else? We will have to use hardware communication on board. So this once again depends on the application, but QML works there. So I would recommend using QML for the UI part and C++ under the hood for the communication.
Then there's another question. Can you please quote the question along with the beginning of an answer? Thanks. Yes, we do that. Then we are running short on questions.
Yes. I guess we'll give you a few more minutes for those questions that pop up for you to have a chance to type it in. Also, Young, we're still waiting for, if you could elaborate on your earlier question, that would be great so we can answer that. Looks like that might be it. We'll maybe give the participants 30 more seconds, just in case there's anyone just furiously typing a question.
Sandu, when do we meet next time? In Berlin. Just a question.
I don't know.
Okay. No
Probably
plan.
a couple of weeks.
I think that's about it for now. Oh no, just one more.
Okay, is there a simple way to get a stack trace from the target architecture via Qt, or should this be handled by the target operating system? Kimmo.
So this is from the debugger. So the QDB will get the trace for you. So when you launch the application, if you use Qt Creator, for example, you can launch it in debug and get the traces from there.
Yeah, I think this is where, looking at the question, I assume that the user is using the open source version of Qt, where you don't have the QDB. So that's part of the commercial offering. So it may be a little bit more tricky to do that on the open source Qt. With the commercial Qt, you have all the bells and whistles in place to get your products and productivity going from day one.
Great. Again, there's no dumb questions here, so feel free to ask.
Yeah, is there something you want to elaborate? Do you remember how you actually do it on the open source Qt?
I think the QDB is there as well on open source, so it's not commercial.
Okay, then I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I think that might be it. Maybe we'll give the participants 15 more seconds. So I do appreciate it takes a while to write these questions down, and if you get, suddenly get a question, it takes a while. So we'll give you a few more seconds, and then we'll be done with today's webinar. Again, if there's anything that you, after the webinar, that if you think of a question, do get in touch with us through info@qt.io. I will also be sending the webinar recording to you, so you can kind of go back and recap on any questions that you asked. But I think that's about it for today. Like I said, if you have any questions, email them over to info@qt.io, and we'll ask them for you after the webinar. But until then, thank you for attending. Have a great day or evening. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.